Hey everybody, welcome back to the 100-somethingth episode of Taps and Patience. This is our first one we've ever done live. I'm AJ with Design the Everything. No, I'm AJ with Audacity Micro here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity in Precision Ingenuity HQ.
Yeah, you could call it HQ, I guess.
I mean, do you have any other quarters?
I don't know. Headquarters makes it sound like there's more than one.
If you have no other quarters, this is your headquarters.
Yes. How we doing?
I'm tired of traveling.
Yeah, you've been gallivanting all over the country, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been on the road for, I think, 8 days at this point.
Oh, my. Yeah.
So, we've been driving. We had 3 days where we didn't do any extensive amount of driving, but every other day we've done at least 3 or 4 hours of travel.
Oh, man.
With 3 kids.
Yeah, that's a lot. And this has been for work?
For the most part.
For the most part. So what happened? What does the family go find something to do while you're at a shop?
Yep, they've had plenty to do. The first 2 days were basically just travel. Mm-hmm. Got in the car, drove, slept at a hotel, got back in the car, drove, slept in the hotel. And then I had 3 days on site with a customer, getting them trained up on running a Tormach. They were making tensile test specimen for their material testing lab, and they didn't really know how to run a machine. And so I got them both trained on how to make the machine, then I also set them up with a bunch of different programs for the lathe, so they can, like, basically, they're always gonna be making the same part, but it could be a range of sizes.
Gotcha.
So I have, like, you know, this is if you're starting with a 1-inch material, if you're starting with 1 1/8 inch, if you're starting with 1 1/4, and I give them like 12 programs.
Gotcha. Did you make them modular in any way?
It's modular inside my Fusion, inside CAM.
But not on the machine.
But not on the machine.
Okay.
I wanted it to be as simple as possible for them to walk up to the machine, measure the material, hit go. They're going to be running some from round material and some from square material. Mm-hmm. And even with that, I kept it all in the same program. Super, super, super conservative numbers. I used like stainless speeds and feeds because they're going to be running stainless steel and mild steel.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I just program everything for stainless, the mild steel is going to be fine.
Yep.
So they don't have to worry about materials.
Just worst case scenario type programming.
Yeah. So it's very slow. It's very conservative. And they seem to get it pretty well. I made the guy I was training run like 8 parts in a row or something on that day before I left.
Yep.
Before tragedy struck, which is a different story.
Uh-oh. At this place or somewhere else?
At this place.
Oh, no.
We'll cliffhanger that. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
So what have you been up to?
Just nose to the grinding stone. We're finally past the point where we have work that's behind. So, you know, it seems like for about almost 2 months, month and a half, we were always about 1 week behind. So we were getting work, and we got behind, and that kept pushing everything else behind, and it just kind of kept snowballing. Thankfully, we didn't really get further behind than about a week, maybe 2, but it affected multiple customers and just kind of kept going down the line of hitting one customer and then the next and then the next. And then the question goes, well, if you got one customer that's delayed, do you just keep delaying them and make sure everyone else doesn't go behind, or do you kind of spread that delay out over everyone? And thankfully, we just tried to communicate with our customers as best as we could, kind of explain what was going on, and ended up a little bit of a rough situation. We had our first time where we actually had to give parts back to a customer that we had accepted, which really, I think it stung us more than it stung them. But we ended up meeting the owners of that company. They were a new customer too, which was the other part that hurt. But the owners ended up coming to the shop. We gave them a shop tour. They hung out for about an hour. They were super chill. And they basically said, well, whenever you catch up, let us know. We'll send you more work. But, you know, we want to make sure you guys are able to do it on time. So I haven't gone back to them yet because I want to make sure I'm in a point where I can, and that's not an issue. But other than that, everything's been hunky-dory.
Very good. I got my big order shipped, at least this release of it. I still have 600 more. I have 90 days to make 600, whereas this last batch I made 800, and I think it ended up being 25 days.
Okay.
So they were 25 kind of long, busy days.
Yep.
But, I've got 3 times longer now to make 25% less parts.
And still no pay. Got to wait till the whole order shipped?
So Xometry did come through, and they did get me paid for that first batch finally.
Nice.
They still haven't even started their net 40 clock on this next batch yet.
Okay.
But that is because I have not bugged them yet.
Okay.
Because I've been traveling. And
Yeah.
basically this whole trip I've been like, wake up, go do something,
Yeah.
do something, go to bed, wake up, do something, and just I've had almost no time. Like I've checked my email while my wife is driving a couple times.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't do email while driving. But like I've had zero downtime. I have some programming that I've been wanting to do, and I just haven't had a single second. Today, there was supposed to be one more training class that I was going to do for someone unrelated to the first people. It was like, hey, while we're down in Texas, does anyone else need anything? And I had that arranged. And then I found out that Austin it was San Antonio and Dallas, different places. I had somehow screwed up their location. He had told me the right thing every time. And I sent him a message and was like, hey, what if we just did this online?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. Because that would have been an extra, I think, 6 hours of driving added to the trip.
Oh, man.
Because it was like 3 hours in the wrong direction. But that meant yesterday was pretty
chill.
Pretty chill, yeah. It was the first day off we've had. And instead of staying at just like a Holiday Inn, we stayed in an Airbnb. It was a tree house.
Oh, really?
Fun. Yeah.
That is kind of cool.
And there was no internet. And so I guess I could have still done Fusion, but I chose not to.
Yeah.
And instead, I don't know, I read a lot, hung out with the family a lot. So
Yeah, spend some time with family. That's good.
yeah.
Fair enough. Well, you've seen the shop. What do you think?
It's a lot nicer than mine. Like embarrassingly nicer than mine.
We've put a lot of work into it.
And your actual facility is nicer. I am willing to mentally write off that like I got what I got when I moved into the house. And sure, I could have done more work, but it would have taken a lot more work to get it to this level. But like just your toolboxes are better organized than mine. Your floors are cleaner than mine. Your machines are, cleaner than mine. So
Well, I'm not
I
a
have
solo.
some work to do.
I'm not a solo guy. I got one other guy with me, and I've got a lot of family in the area. So I've got aunts and uncles that all want to help out, and so like the office that we're sitting in was basically done by my dad, almost 100%. I didn't show you those, but we got some photos on the wall of what it looked like before, and I could share some photos, later of kind of the evolution of the shop. But it's been, all the downtime that we had when we first moved into here was spent making the shop as nice as it is. So like our first year, the first half of the year, we were really slow. And we used all that slow time to improve the shop and to get it into this condition. So that's basically, in some sense, we've never been slow because we've always got some project to tackle, shop related. So
yeah, I would just say, so you have 2 people working here, but you're also, I think, more than twice as busy as I am, at least on average.
Probably.
And your shop is also, the organization, everything, I think, is more than twice as good as mine. So I have some room to make up there.
Well, to be fair, I would say the bulk of that is Weston. Weston is extremely detail oriented. He's extremely dedicated to making sure that everything is in really good condition around here. I am a lot messier than he is by far. When I'm working in an area, I don't always do a great job of cleaning up after myself as consistently as he is. And so he's driven a lot of that side of it more than me. But once we get going in that direction, I help out as much as I can. So, but no, it's been great. It's been a lot of work, but we did the open house, and we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish with what we have. But it has put a large financial burden to get it this nice as well. So even though we're doing really well financially, we've also invested a ton into the business. So we're kind of recovering from that a little bit too. But I'm pretty happy with the results.
I do bet you do a lot more walking during the day than I do.
Oh, a bunch. Yeah.
I think your shop is a little bit more strung out than mine is. Mine is very compressed.
Uh-huh.
Now, granted, my machines are, a quarter of the size added together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I walk so much back and forth, and that's why we have that other desk on the far end of the shop. Is because if you're working on the Doosan or on the lathe, and you're going back and forth between the computer a lot, it's just easier just to bring your whole laptop over there and just because just like whenever we have all 4 of those machines going or 3 of those machines going, in addition to the tumbling and all that other stuff that we got going on, I mean, I've done 8 miles in the shop just walking back and forth all day. And we try to structure everything to minimize walk time as much as we can to make sure that, if you're going one direction, you're not going back and forth for
always go clockwise.
Yeah, you're like always going in a circle pretty much. So, but even though you're still, the flow is lean, at least lean inspired, it's still a lot of walking.
Yeah, and you guys definitely don't have room to do like a full lean cell. Mm-mm. Like you couldn't organize your machines in a way that would keep lean happy. But
I mean, you got machines on one wall, machines on the other wall, and then you've got your tables. And then by the time you get out, there's like just a little bit of room in the middle for a walkway. And so while you could fit more in there, you would have to take away the kind of the cells that we currently do have to be able to fit more machines in, which would make it a little less efficient and a little like messier and more chaotic, I feel like. So like that the desire to keep things laid out nicely ends up taking up more space than if you would just, try to put machines as tight as you could together.
Well, and you need room for accessing chip bins and fluids and everything.
But it's definitely tight, especially like we've like whenever we redid the spindle. I mean, you saw how tight it is back there. We keep everything on wheels, and we have to push everything into a corner, and we'll get that conveyor or the forklift all the way into that back corner.
Okay.
And so we've done that a couple times, but you got to move everything out of the way to be able to do it.
How's hiring going?
Good.
Well, do you have someone hired yet?
We haven't officially hired someone yet. So
have you selected someone to hire?
I'm 95% sure we've got the person we want to hire selected. We haven't told them that yet up to this stage.
Do they listen to the podcast?
I don't know if they listen to the podcast, honestly.
If we need to delay publishing this, we can.
It won't matter. I mean, I don't care if they watch this and they hear it. But, it's been one of those things where we've been under the gun for so long, and we're getting to the point where we're not under the gun. And looking forward into the future today, I've got maybe about a month at this point of work, and then I don't got very much outside of that. And so I went from being like so busy that like I really needed someone, that I'm afraid that if I hire someone in now, we're going to slow down, and I'm going to get them in right at the tail end of when I really needed them. And so it's, but I don't also want to delay hiring just because of that, because that also could be opportunity to train them and get them going and all that other stuff. So, I mean, you get the job shop world where everything's going up and down all the time. And I would like to bring someone in, and I need to bring someone in, but it's also a little bit riskier whenever we're already a little bit financially strained right now, and then bringing someone in right when the work is about to slow down. So, but the guy we're looking at hiring, he works part-time. He would be willing to work part-time.
Ooh, that's huge.
So
that's big.
So he's a programmer. He programs for a video game, and he can do
like an actual coder, not
like an actual coder. Like an actual coder. And so he's been doing that for the last 10 years, and he can work remote. So he said he can throttle his other work as much or as little as he needs for us. And so that's the reason we want to hire him. And he's a smart kid, about our same age as us, self-taught and all that stuff. And he seems genuinely interested in it. And so I think would be a really good fit. So, and the other guy that we were looking at is looking for something that's more of a full-time commitment. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why we want to go with the other kid, because he could be a little bit more flexible to our schedule. And so what we're thinking is that we would do, instead of like half days, do like a full day on, a full day off type part-time work. That way he's when he's here for a full day, and then if we don't have the work or whatnot, he can, we can try to schedule it around his other work so he can work from home and do his programming remote work. That way we can kind of balance the two loads.
Yeah. Yeah, being able to bring someone in as part-time for your first job, I think, or first employee would be big.
Yeah.
Because there's way less risk there if, let's say you don't get that business, which you're going to get twice as much as you have now. But if something happens, tariffs go horribly wrong and it wipes out U.S. manufacturer. I don't know, who knows? But I'm not saying it wouldn't be a big deal to lay him off, but it's not his only source of income.
Yeah,
it's much it's a much less of a responsibility and a burden on your shoulders.
And the other guy that we were highly considering, he got laid off from his job locally along with 13 other people because they didn't have enough work.
Yep.
And he's got a family that he's trying to provide for, and I would feel bad hiring him and not being able to fully commit to full-time work. That's kind of what he needs, and I would feel bad putting him in a position where he had to choose, and then he'd probably be going out and looking for another job. And so even though I want to help him out in that situation, it doesn't make sense for the compatibility of where we are versus what he needs kind of a guaranteed work-wise.
Yep.
And so versus the other guy, he has the ability to be more flexible and as a dependent.
Is he self-employed then?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's works on a contract basis, and so he said he can basically get as much in as little work. He just needs a 2-week notice, and then he can throttle it or go up or down, whatever's needed. So as long as we can schedule 2 weeks out in advance, which is plenty for us.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah. So we just need to sit down, me and Weston, and figure out when we can get him in here and reach out and nail down some of the finer details. So. And it's going to be a little bit on us because we got to get payroll and all that other stuff figured out. So, but it's going to happen. Just need to have some time where I sit down with Weston and we nail out all the details.
Does ProShop handle payroll?
I don't know.
Does it handle accounting at all?
I honestly know very little about ProShop. Weston has been taking lead on that, and he's been training me on an as-needed basis.
Okay. So that's a Weston question.
That's a Weston question. And so in the beginning, what was really stressful is we were behind on work, and Weston was trying to get trained in on ProShop. And so it was basically me in the back of the shop and Weston trying to do ProShop, and it was just, we were spread way too thin for about a month and a half, and it was super stressful. But now we're at a point where ProShop is starting to pay back in Weston's time savings.
Oh, good.
So it's actually I actually have Weston more than I had him before we had ProShop now. And so that's the other side of the equation where the reason we needed employees because Weston wasn't able to help me. But now Weston, as ProShop's coming online, is getting more efficient and doesn't need to be on ProShop as much as he was before we got it. So it's that whole balancing act. But I want to get to a point where he can leave or I can leave for a vacation, and then it's not a one-man show trying to keep this whole thing going. And that you really need an employee for that as well.
Have you read or listened to Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz?
I've listened to the first episode or the first chapter or two on an audiobook.
Okay.
But I haven't. It's been a while. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
After talking to you about hiring the other day, it made me think of that book because it kind of there's what are his different books? He has The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. I think is kind of his one for
Pumpkin
businesses
Plan.
that are just getting started, and then businesses that are a little bit mature. Clockwork is for.
Yep.
And so you guys are in the Clockwork stage.
Yeah, and then there's the
Profit First,
Pumpkin Plan, Think Different. He's got a couple.
Yeah.
They're all good. I think the only one that I've actually listened all the way through was the Profit First.
You should listen to Clockwork.
So, yeah, he's just a great podcast or audiobook speaker. He's very energetic. I like that in a reader. But yeah, No, it's we're entering into the next stage of the business where I'm instead of working right now, I own a job, and we're kind of transitioning into owning a business, which involves having more people than just me and Weston. And you know, I would love to get to a point where I'm not required to be at the machines. I will never get away from it because I love working at the machines. But if I can get to a point where I can focus on getting the next job set up and get it all done, and then I have someone who's running, or on the simpler jobs, here's some of the simpler parts. You can program them, set them up, and run them, and that'll help be kind of training for this guy who wants to learn and kind of get involved. I don't want people to get so pigeonholed into just doing the menial tasks. I want them to also have some fun and to learn and enjoy the work. So,
so if you hire somebody, are they going to be programming, or are you
eventually?
Eventually, okay.
That's the goal. Our first hire is someone that we want to bring on that we could potentially turn into a shop lead, shop manager type role, and program and train them up into that position.
So with part-time guy, do you think he could ever get to the point where he could do that?
Yeah, I think he could.
Okay.
The biggest worry I have with him is that he seems to be a very smart, intelligent person. The type of person that if he could try to either go out on his own or get bored and master everything here and decide he wants to try something else. And I don't have anything against that. I want to hang on to him as long as I can. But I also understand that when you find someone that's like that has that, I mean, think about us. I mean,
yeah, say that's us.
It's finding another one of us, but that also comes with the risk of he might want to go out and do his own thing at some point. And I have no problem with that, but how long am I going to have him type deal. So, and creating an environment that he wants to work in and stay in. Thankfully, being a smaller company, there's a lot less bureaucracy and all that other stuff that comes with the larger companies that tends to chase people away. So I think we have enough control in here to create an environment that people will want to stay in. At least I hope.
Let's hope, yeah.
I know I want to stay in it. I love it.
So one thing I learned from managing people, and I haven't been in a management position for a while, but I, have managed large numbers of people in the past. Mm-hmm. But particularly in not most aggressively, that's the wrong term, but like where I had the most hands-on experience with actually managing people was when I was at Chick-fil-A. I worked for Chick-fil-A for a number of years. Chick-fil-A stores are much bigger businesses than you would think. Mm-hmm. When I started at that Chick-fil-A, they were like a $5 million a year Chick-fil-A in revenue.
Oh, wow.
When I left, they were like $20 million a year.
Wow.
And now they're probably way more because they moved into a much larger building, and they were definitely capital constrained when I left. But there was something like 140 employees on the books when I left. And now Chick-fil-A is a little bit different where there's like a whole bunch of people who are working like 10 hours a week. So in terms of, compared to a normal business where you might have, 10 people who are all working 40 hours, this was 40 people working 10 hours a week. But one of the things I learned there because I had the same fear that people would get bored and disengaged, and so what I tried to do was move them around, teach them lots of new things, and I would try to not have the same person like do the same thing twice in a row. Mm-hmm. One day you'd be doing fries, one day you'd be doing chicken, and one day you'd be doing salad prep or whatever. And that was great in theory, but in reality it had some major issues.
Well, some people like consistency. It depends on the person's personality type. So for me, I would like that variety of being able to jump around and learn a lot of different things. But there are other people, and Weston's more the style. He wants to learn something, he wants to master it, and then he wants to just do it.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, I think people did like it, but it definitely made a less productive kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
And because you just couldn't get in as much into the flow of it. And sure, it kept things kind of newer and more interesting, but like
you could primary and secondary though.
Yeah, and that is a much better system. But kind of the thing I learned is like, okay, during work, you work, you do what you're good at. The phrase we used, which I think came from a book, I don't know what book, but the phrase my boss used was right people, right seat.
Yeah.
That is from a book. I don't remember which one it is. There's some analogy about a bus.
Yeah, getting people on and off the bus, making sure they're in the right seat. Yeah.
Someone will know that book.
Oh yeah, they talked about that book at my old job a lot, except it was not implemented well.
But my lesson from that was, okay, when it's go time, when it's business hours, or well, business hours tomorrow, when it's like, lunch rush or whatever, we have people working on what they're strongest at, which, for you would be programming. For your cousin, he's going to be doing administrative work or whatever. And for your new guy, he's going to be running parts. But then outside of those like important, production hours or whatever you want to call it, you schedule hours that are specifically designed for,
education
and development, and professional development. That's what I was looking for.
Yep.
So yes, when you're busy, the guy comes on, he starts at, sweeping the floor or doing fries, whatever the minimum skill job is. And then,
build them up.
You schedule some time with him when it's a slower period, where then you can focus on training him to bread chicken or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my lesson. Don't try to just jump him around to keep him entertained. But, But also schedule time to do that development.
What I was thinking about doing is they have a primary task, and if they have free time, I'd have secondary tasks that they can learn or do in between the primary. So like if you're running a machine and the cycle time is 20 minutes, that's not really enough time to really do a whole lot of programming, but it's also not so little time that you want to have them just sitting in front of the machine the whole time. So trying to find some work that they can do in between that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be productive work. It just has something that they can do to kind of learn, whether it's setting up the next machine, learning how to use the controller on a different machine, using ProShop to inventory material or tooling, just some other tasks in between the machine operations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, I don't think I would use that time for learning personally. I would like set aside an hour where they are focusing on learning. Yeah. And yes, taking inventory of tools and putting it in ProShop, like it needs to be done in between cycles is a good time to do that. Yeah. I had another thought.
It wouldn't be a whole lot of like hardcore learning, but just like small learning. I feel like, just some of the general shop practices and procedures, but yeah, you can't overload people in those short periods and hope and expect them to retain it, because that is the other side of that equation is if you're trying to keep the machine running, that's where your primary focus needs to be on, because it's real easy to lose focus, misload a part, and I do that every once in a while. I'll load a fixture and I didn't torque everything down to the right spec, and so it throws apart. That happens maybe once a month or so, and it's usually because I'm trying to do too many different things at the same time, or I get distracted or something else. So there's definitely a balancing act there.
That was the last thing I did before I left on the trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was getting packed up in the morning, and we had just kind of a bunch of odds and ends to take care of. And I was like, well, I'm in the shop here anyway. I might as well run some parts. Mm-hmm. So I started on that big production job again. And I ran a part, and it threw it and broke the tool. And I hadn't tightened the vise because I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to get stuff done. Yep. It's like, okay, I'm turning off the machine now. Yep. I'm done for the day.
There's definitely a certain level of focus needed on operating the machines properly. And I don't want to overload a person where they're focused on another task to the point where they're neglecting, and not even on purpose. We're just people. We can't overload and multitask to a high degree all the time, especially when you're running those machines. It's real easy to lose focus for just a couple seconds, think you did something, hit cycle start, and then problem.
Oops, I need a new spindle.
Yeah, oops, I need a new spindle. So definitely want them focused on the task at hand. But there are other things that they can do, smaller things, but you got to make sure that they're comfortable on what they're doing on the other end. So, and building proper procedures, that's the other thing, is like making sure when you're running this job, you need to make sure this is good, 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 and then you can hit cycle start. And documenting that and making sure that, because that's something that we're trying to do with me and Weston, is we're trying to build out proper procedures for ourselves. Because if Weston's loading parts and I'm loading parts, we got to make sure we're loading them the same way and that we're making sure that everything's done. I get a lot more distracted than Weston does. That just comes back to I'm a little bit more ADHD.
And this is why he does the accounting.
And this is why he does the accounting and things, because it's a lot easier for me to, the same thing that allows me to be as good as I am at what I do comes from that ADD side, that desire to learn, that always trying new things, always pushing the limits. But I enjoy creating procedures and things, but I have a hard time following my own procedures. Like I'll come up with a procedure and they'll be like, oh, I could tweak it and do a little bit like this, and then I could tweak it. And like at some point you got to lock it down and you got to say, okay, I'm going to do it. I can experiment later on at some point, but at some point I need to just follow this procedure for a while and focus on something else.
Yep.
And I have a hard time doing that every once in a while, where I just it's like, oh, I tried something a little bit different here. I tried something a little bit different there. There's pros and cons to that, but when you have someone when you're trying to create a system, it's not the best environment for someone to come behind you and try to follow that, because you're doing it different every single time. So, yeah.
This is tangentially related. Do you have a good way when you're doing vise work so like a prismatic part, you're flipping it over, you're doing a second op, but just in a vise. Do you have a good way of making sure that you can't load that part backwards in just a normal vise? Like in soft jaws, it's easy because you can put a pin or a hole or something in there where it prevents it from being loaded backwards.
No, I don't think we have like good safety procedures in that sense. Like I do a lot of in-process probing.
Yeah.
And in theory that should catch it, but most of my stuff is blocky, and so even a misload in the wrong direction wouldn't necessarily catch it all the time. But that's the advantage of me and Weston being the only two in here. It hasn't really been that big of an issue up to this point. And usually I'm running the machines 90% of the time, or I've taught Weston how to do the part and he's just super reliable. So I just have to show him once and I don't have to worry about it ever again.
On that big production job, I mentioned switching the second op to running in a vise, and it's really easy to misload those.
Oh yeah.
And the first day that we switched to that, I think I did it once or twice wrong, and my wife was running some of those parts for me, and she did it more than once or twice wrong.
How do you load it wrong? Is it a wrong orientation? Is it not torquing it down right? Is it not seating? Like what's the mode of failure in your long load and your wrong loading? The
part is more or less square in aspect ratio, and if it's loaded at 90 degrees, that's where the failure comes in.
Okay.
And it has a top hat, so it looks very similar.
Okay, so one of the tricks that I have done on parts like that, where I want to make sure that it's loaded properly, is where the top hat is, I will do a small circular cut through the top hat, and I know which orientation that needs to be in. So it's a really quick way to look at it and go, is that loaded in the right orientation? I usually don't probe that feature, but whenever you're grabbing it on a vise, you have those other two sides, and you can just nick one of them and put a feature into that top hat. That way when it's flipped over, you always know it's in the right orientation.
I could do that.
So you can do it with a drill bit, an end mill, just something that goes through that you can see from the top.
Okay. Yeah, I might do that. And then I could even add, I've been doing this more and more lately, where I'll have probing operations behind block delete, so you can turn them on and off.
Yep.
And that would let me have a wife mode for my machine.
Yeah, because you could have it probe that feature and make sure that it's there.
Or if I want to save some cycle time, turn on block delete.
Yep.
And it won't run those.
I do that a lot with mine, where the first time through I'll probe it, and then like if I'm running a production job, I'll do 10 or 20 with it probing, and then I'll turn it off with block delete, and then if it stays consistent, I'll just leave it off But I'll do that to check it. And every once in a while I'll turn it on and reprobe and just see if it's moved any or anything like that. And it's usually fine.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But that's the easiest thing that I found in parts that are so similar that it's real easy to misload, is I'll try to put some sort of a feature on it where I can tell Weston, hey, as long as this feature is doing this, you're okay.
Yeah. In the past, I have stuck magnets onto my jaws, where like if you hit the magnets, then something's wrong. But these are steel parts, and it'd just be a chip nightmare.
Oh yeah. But yeah, putting a feature into that top hat would be the easiest.
We should do Q&A questions.
Okay.
I forgot about the Q&A.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is a normal episode, even though we're here in person. Speaking of questions, we have Patreons. Those Patreons are able to ask us questions. They also get early access to our episodes, which now, thanks to, speaking of new hires, we have Jacob. That threw me off. Thanks to new hires, our episodes are actually coming out on time. They are getting edited better. They're getting consistent thumbnails. He's giving us a list of patrons and Q&A questions. And by you joining our Q&A, you can help support Jacob and us. What's his name? Jacob gave us a whole bunch of questions here that we can go through. These are, I think, going back a couple months. Maybe not months, but at least a couple weeks. So, I have notes here. New Patreons.
You have notes?
Ben. Thanks, just Ben. He's a new Patreon. Okay, sorry, Ben. Jason just signed up for $10 per month. Also, thank you, Jason. The notes are in the Discord, by the way, if you wanted to pull those up. Yeah, we have Jacob made us a behind the scenes channel, and that has all of the Patreon names.
Where's that over here?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. That's just right in front of my face.
So current Patreons include Jason S, Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes, Cam S, Shep A, Jacob at Zonum Precision. Hey, that's our employee. Stop paying yourself. Joshua H, Christian Z, Dylan at Got Chips, Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z 2Z Systems, Alexander B, Jamie P, Chris Zyke, EJ at Nocturnal Welding. I'm wearing his shirt. Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson, the maker of these super cool coasters on his Penta Machine Consola.
And I think he sells them too.
Well, he thinks he sells them too.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. I don't remember if we said this out loud. I don't think Jacob would mind. But we gave Jacob, he gets a percentage of the Patreon. So he gets a share in it in addition to his hourly pay. So if you guys join more, Jacob gets more money. Q&A questions. So Leroy B, what do you suggest for CAD-CAM? And would a 3D printer be a good learning tool? If so, what 3D printer do you recommend?
It depends on what you're trying to do.
Fusion.
I mean, Fusion is for the CAD-CAM, that's easy. Yeah. Fusion is definitely. But what are you trying to do with the 3D printing? If you're trying to become a job shop, I'm not sure it would help you that much.
He said learning tool.
As a learning tool, it's a good learning tool. But if your goal is to become a job shop, machine shop, I don't know if it would be that beneficial. It's a great support item, but it's not really going to help you make parts. But if your goal is to learn CAD,
I don't think there's a better way of doing it.
Yeah, CAD, on the CAD side of things, Fusion is awesome, or 3D printing is awesome. On the CAM side, it's not going to do you anything.
Zero hope for CAM, but I think it is the best way to learn CAD. Just find problems, solve problems.
And keeps it engaging. The thing with CAD is if you're only designing stuff on a computer, it allows you to bring it into the real world, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment that you don't get from just having a cool model on your computer.
Well, and you can design stuff in CAD that just doesn't work in reality.
That too.
And as soon as you 3D print it, it's like, oh, this 1/4-inch peg does not fit in a 1/4-inch hole. I need to leave it an allowance so that it does fit.
Yeah.
And you can follow tutorials for CAD, and you should, but solving problems with a 3D printer is the way to learn CAD.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun, just in general, and useful.
And get a Bamboo or a Prusa. There's no reason to look at anything else right now. And if you have opinions on that, then maybe that doesn't apply to you. But like if you don't have opinions on which printer to get, just get a Bamboo or a Prusa.
Yeah, they're the jelly beans of 3D printers.
Chris Zeich and Eric H. What will rising costs of materials do to the manufacturing industry in the next years?
Depends on the industry. For us, in particular, it doesn't really hurt us because we pass that cost on to the customers. And already importing stuff is going to be expensive. It's going to make locally made stuff more expensive, but it's still going to be cheaper than importing from overseas.
Maybe.
Or hurt less than the importing from overseas, I should say.
I think things will get more expensive, and
yeah. For us, I will say since the beginning of this year, we have been overflowing with work, and 90% of the shops that I've heard from are also in the same boat of like this year work has been picking up rather than slowing down.
I've even seen more non-Xometry work come my way.
Yeah.
I have a job that I need to do like first thing when I get back. It's non-Xometry, and I don't normally do much non-Xometry.
Ironically, it might actually hurt Xometry more than help Xometry because there's a lot of stuff that gets sent overseas through them. So it might help their domestic side, but I think it's going to hurt Xometry overall more.
It'll help shops on Xometry. It'll hurt Xometry overall.
Yeah.
Which, when they first announced the tariffs, I don't know if you saw what happened to Xometry's stock price.
Plummeted?
It went down like 25% at one point.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And I almost bought some because it was cheaper, and I regret not doing it because the next day it went up 15%.
Oh, man.
It's like, man, that's free money I missed out on. So, yeah, I think things are going to get expensive. I think job shops, like, people are still going to need parts. I think we're just going to charge more for them, and the customer's going to sell them for more.
That, and if you're a job shop that's doing production work for companies, they might try to bring some of that in-house to save cost. So that would be the downside. I think normal job shop of like onesie twosies is going to go up. Your people that are doing production work, which I'm trying to get into, has the potential to be hurt more because they're going to probably most shops are going to try to bring more of that in-house.
I bet it helps you more than it hurts you because I think
in the short term it will because they're not going to have the capacity to bring it all in-house. But in the long run, companies are going to look at this as a cautionary tale and try to bring it in-house.
I would be willing to bet that there is a much larger percentage of companies that will bring things back from overseas than companies that are going to try to in-house things.
True, but the customers that I deal with specifically are trying to in-source as much as bring stuff in-house as much as possible. So I could see it hurting in the long run. Although I think it's going to be a lot further down the road. I'm thinking maybe in the next 10 years, I could end up losing these parts because they try to bring it in-house because they're trying to grow their in-house manufacturing side. But I also think there's so many parts that they have, they can't do it to everything. So like, I don't know how, it could be a double-edged sword where right now they're trying to bring so much in that I can capture a lot of it, but I could also lose a large portion of that over, the next 10 years as they try to bring some of that in-house. So I got to be careful for me personally, speaking from my current situation.
I think this is a very important time for job shops where like as companies are trying to bring stuff, back in from overseas, like if you drop the ball with a customer, like they might go in-house or they go, going overseas and paying a little bit more is not that bad. Mm-hmm. Or if you just smash it out of the park and they might go, okay, we'll just 20% more for American made, but like a million times less headache.
Yeah,
I'm down for that. And then you have a customer for life or whatever.
That's what we're trying to do. So Chris Z, what is your quoting process? Do you do a lot of quoting, or because of your Xometry stuff?
I don't do a lot of quoting. However, I did just invest in Toolpath, and I'm getting that set up.
Oh, okay.
To basically, I'm just going to get like my presets and everything worked out really well in Toolpath, and I will use Toolpath for 100% of my quoting.
Oh, okay, nice.
So
we're quoting through ProShop, and it's basically the same process we were using for quoting before, but just translated over to ProShop. So I wouldn't mind looking into Toolpath and some of those other things, but at this point I'm not seeing the need yet, because we still do a lot of work where people just send us POs and then we build them afterwards, and so I don't really quote it. I'm just putting in, it's just time and material. And then the stuff that we do quote, we usually don't end up getting already. And that's just because they're required to send it out to so many different companies. It's kind of annoying. And a lot of that we end up like no quoting some of it because it's just not really worth it.
I went with Toolpath not just because of their current product. Like, yes, they will be able to do all of my quoting no problem right now, but I'm really excited with where Toolpath is going.
Oh yeah, no.
And I am going to keep bugging them to let to be able to set up a service where I can have customers send parts directly like to my website, and Toolpath will spit out a quote.
Yeah,
They're not doing that yet. Don't buy anything on promises of future features, especially when it's coming from somebody who doesn't know anything and is outside the company. But that is what I'm hoping. That's what I want. I want little baby Xometry at my shop.
Oh, I definitely would like that as well. But
which actually you can have right now. I did a bunch of research the other day, but like it starts at like $4,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Paperless Parts basically does that.
Yeah, there was one company I got a demo from that was cheaper than Paperless. They actually had a pretty good interface.
Yeah.
But it was like $4,000 a year plus 7% of your gross sales.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Next question, Jake Bronson. What's it like being a recording?
So I think there was a typo when we asked the question. And as ever, Jake Brownson came in and called us out. Buy his coasters.
Yeah.
Hey, Jacob, I have a task for you. Put a link to his coasters in our thingy.
What's it like? I guess I could take that as what's it like to be a podcaster and like having people reach out. I don't know if you look at it as like a general. I don't know. What's it like it for you? You like it?
I mean, I was already doing YouTube stuff. It's just like a different YouTube stuff that I do, but like I get to talk to Harrison. I don't know.
For me, I have people reach out. Like every once in a while, I'll hit a topic, like the spindle or the Fraser tools here recently, both of those, and I get a lot of people that reach out to me about both those topics. But in general, I don't get bugged that much. But it's cool to have all these other external connections and have the opportunity to meet people and learn what's out there. And so I would do this just for fun. And that's basically why I started doing this more than anything else. It gives me an opportunity to talk to someone else about what I do that I'm not in business with.
Yeah.
So, and then other people hopefully benefit.
Yeah. And I mean, we've each taken home like $300 or something from this podcast for
I've
2 years of work.
I put it straight back into
your recording setup.
Into my recording setup.
I actually have more money for you, by the way.
Yay, more recording stuff. I can maybe get something here. That way, if I have to record here, it's not horrible.
That threw me off. But yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I like to hang out with Harrison. Realistically, I'm not that good of a machinist. I'm not that smart, but I know a lot of smart, really good machinists, and learning from them has made me better. And this is a good way to engage with a whole lot more machinists. Cameron S, have you guys done any metal 3D printing? I'm not sure if I need to scale my model or if they do that. I know this one. The answer is it depends. Yes, your model will come out shrinkaged. A good printing service bureau should correct for that. You can always email them. Metal 3D prints don't always scale. They don't always shrink consistently. It's not like going into Fusion and doing a scale and scaling it down to 97%. The good places, they will have software that will take into account things like wall thicknesses and weird shrinkages. So I would not do it yourself, but maybe contact the service bureau and make sure that they're going to do that for you.
Yeah, it's all application driven. I haven't done hardly any metal 3D print. I don't know if I've had anything ever metal 3D printed, but I've been connected to people who have.
My first product was metal 3D printed.
Yeah, I know, your pens.
The Spire pens.
Yeah.
And then I spent some time with doing training through NextGen for a company that did metal 3D printing. And that's where they were trying to probe in 450 parts all on one pallet and machine them.
For the next question, I'm going to go, because we're right here at the shop, I'm going to go grab it.
So the next question Harrison was alluding to, Harrison had mentioned some sort of ceramic deburr tool for plastics a while back, but his neighbor, Nixco says he was not able to find one. Do you remember where you got yours? Thanks. Well, apparently Harrison got his from
Amazon.
the cabinet in the back. Amazon?
Amazon. So it's a Noga deburring
interesting.
tool. So, and I brought a piece of plastic if you want to try it.
So it looks like a razor blade for our audio listeners.
But it's not sharp. It's not like sharp. It's just 90-degree edges.
Yeah.
But it allows you to deburr. Use that edge. Yeah.
Are all the edges not the same?
Well, I always just use that edge. But it doesn't grab and dig into the part, which is nice. But it does a good job of removing the material. So.
Yeah. It kind of bumps a little bit on the side cut edges, like it bounces. But if you had a smooth machined edge, that would leave a really nice.
So it just does So I just do it like almost like you're peeling an apple.
Yeah.
And it just does a really good job of just removing that material.
I need one of those.
So yeah, and the biggest thing about it is when you're deburring plastic, if you use the regular ones, because they got that knife edge, they will just dig in.
Yes, you have to be super, super careful.
With this, you can put a lot of pressure into it, or really light pressure, and you can really control the depth a lot easier.
Yep. I will a lot of the times deburr with a scalpel. I have a whole set of scalpels in both of my workbenches, and I'll put a brand new blade on for deburring plastics and just kind of lightly go around the edge. It leaves a really good finish. But if you slip at all, you go clunk, and it takes a bite out of it.
Yeah. So I will see if I can send this link to AJ or to Jacob.
Find this on Amazon.
So if you guys can't find it, let me know. They are replaceable, but
it's plastic and ceramic. Yeah. Unless you're doing G10 or something.
Yeah. It's good.
Zach at Volunteer Machine Works. To AJ, any update on your headphones project? No. I saw the light. That's been pushed in a box on my shelf. I should probably finish the ones for myself, but probably not as a product.
I killed it.
You did.
Sorry.
Also from Zach, to both, do you feel that Xometry is still the best bet on the block for building garage shops given the recent increase in rigor for the inspection process? Are there better alternatives? MFG comes to mind.
I haven't looked in that space since I've gotten out of it.
I saw ads for another one. I don't remember. It was like Giga or something like that. It was a European one, and I applied. I sent them an email. Radio silence from them. I followed up once or twice, and they just aren't answering. So I don't know what's going on with them. Yeah. But I've written them off completely at this point.
I haven't done a Xometry part in 9 months at least, and so. My business has grown to a point where I do not want to lose Xometry. I need to take on some work because they're an awesome fallback, but I like dealing with other companies directly, and it's a lot more consistent. I can build that relationship with that customer, and I like that a heck of a lot more than Xometry.
I don't know if their inspection process has actually gotten more rigorous.
I couldn't tell you.
It make and ship good parts, and as long as you do that, you're fine. I don't think I've seen anything specifically for inspection. Their application process has gotten worse.
Didn't they send out an email about having to have what's the thing I'm thinking of? You have to have your processes documented.
A QMS.
A QMS, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't require that before.
But it's just you just have to say you have it. They don't audit you unless you go up to a higher level. Also, fun fact, I don't get those emails from Xometry. I don't know why. I've emailed them about it. They have my email. They send me emails. But whenever it's an announcement, I don't get those.
Did you know they're not sending out banners anymore unless you specifically request it?
I did know that. So I don't want one. So I think Xometry right now is still the best option. MFG, that works like Angie's List, if I remember right. Where you pay to get into the door, and then you also pay for your leads, but you still have to do all the sales and quoting and everything. As far as I understand, if it is a true Xometry competitor, let me know. I think we do and will end up with a Xometry competitor. I don't think Xometry is well enough run to be the exclusive. One and only exclusive spindle broker.
Yeah.
I don't think that company's here yet, but I think there's definitely room. particularly for one that treats its shops a little bit better and gives a little bit more openness and transparency. To Harry, spelled with an I.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to obtain your FFL? Is that something he can do for now? He can do now for the anticipation of using it, or should I wait until the demand arises?
So, I mean, we got an FFL just because we like guns, and we were doing some custom gun stuff. Right now, it was $150 a year, some paperwork, and that's about it. And it pays for itself and transfers pretty easily. So we charge anywhere from $15 to $25 to transfer. Depends on some of your different statuses. I think we have an age or a vet price break if you come in, or I think it's if you're military, police, firefighter, or over a certain age, we'll give you a break. Otherwise, it's $25. And we don't push it, but we've had a lot of people that have just found us and shipped stuff to the area because they're like, well, we were looking, and the closest FFL we could ship to was in Fayetteville, but you were like right down the street from me, so I ship it to you. And so we've met some people through that, but it's nothing that makes money for the business. It covers its own expense and a little bit of our time, but it makes it easier for us if we want to get something for ourselves or family members or buy ammo or anything like that. It makes it a little bit cheaper for us. We thought about pushing it more, and it doesn't really correspond with the core of our business. And so we'll hang on to it, but it's nothing that we advertise or push hard. People find us just whenever they go to ship a gun and they go, oh, I didn't know that place existed, and ship it to us. That's about its biggest benefit.
I know nothing about FFLs, so.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is it's a lot of paperwork and red tape, and there is risks in doing it. And so we kind of took that. We took the FFL on at a time when we were very cash hungry and looking for any way to make money. If we did not have it, we would not get it today. But because we already have it and we already have all that legwork done, we're not getting rid of it, if that makes sense. Because it's once it's up and running, it's not that big of a deal. There is a little bit of setup, and it like I said, it doesn't really correspond with our core business, but we don't mind doing it because it's not too big of a headache.
I could see you getting Precision Ingenuity squared away and running itself, and then going and making ARs or something.
Yeah, and
as a separate, unique business.
Yeah. And we're at a prime location that the road that's right out there is one of the busiest ones in the area. Not the busiest, but Siloam is basically moving this way, and this will become a prime location in the next, I'd say, 10 years. And so it'll become storefront property, and eventually we're going to grow out of the manufacturing space. So if we hang on to this building,
you mean next year or this year?
If we hang on to this building, and especially with how we have it set up, it could become a storefront if we had a product or something, and we wanted to sell guns out of it. It's in a great location for that.
Or you could just sell the building for a big profit.
Yeah, or rent it out to another business, something. So there's a lot of different options there. But we've put a lot of work into this place. I'd like to stay here for a few years. I'm not ready to...
I don't think you're going to be able to.
I'm not ready to move. I told people I wanted to get at least 5 years. Everyone said I was crazy. And now they're like, yeah, I could see you moving out. And it's like, yeah. This is a great place, but depends on how fast we grow. And I think we can get a lot more efficient on the inside. I think it would be nice to grow, but I think we could survive 5 years if we pumpkin plan and focus on smaller parts, not as small as you, but 1 foot by, or 12 inch, 6 by 12 by inch and a half thick.
Yeah.
If it can fit inside that size, then if we focus on parts in that range, 90% of our work, we can get a lot pushed through in here.
Yeah. Because if you focus on smaller parts, I mean, you could replace your VF3 with, 2 VF2s or something.
Yeah. And we're not probably going to focus, we're still going to do, the largest parts I would like to do are probably in that 2 foot range, maybe 3 foot. But I don't like doing the large, like the really large stuff. Like the more I've done it, it's stressful. It is fun. I mean, there is a certain level of enjoyment out of it, but it's not as much fun as the smaller technical parts that I enjoy a lot more.
Yep.
And so if as we kind of hone in, like our company, the longer it grows, is going to hone in on more and more on what it's good at and cut the fat around that. And that's just how you grow your business. Is you figure out what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and you keep heading in that direction. In the beginning, you don't know what you're doing. At least we didn't, and so we shotgunned we created as wide of a pattern as we could. And over time, we're just kind of keep shrinking it down until we're laser focused on what is a good fit for us.
I've been thinking about that with all of the like training and stuff I've been doing recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the reason, well, besides it being fun and me enjoying it, the reason I like the training is it's basically free cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on this trip, yes, I've spent, I don't know, $1,000 or whatever gallivanting across the country. But even that was still a relatively small percentage of what I'm making from this job. Mm-hmm. And especially if I had been able to fit in that second day of training.
Yeah.
But it's not going to scale like a machine shop.
Yeah.
Like I could maybe do twice as much as I'm doing now or 3 times as much without the machine shop, but like then that's it.
Yeah.
Unless I become a training agency, which I have no desire to do at all, and hire other people to do training for. Like, no, I'm not going to do that at all. But with the machine shop, you keep adding machines. You could have someone run the machines. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of room in the type of like the dollar value of the work that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I'm still doing, kind of mid-tier stuff, not low end, but not super high end. Like I could go the route of is it Josh or Nick Hacko? Which one's the son? Josh Hacko? Nick Hacko.
I couldn't tell you.
Of Mr. Hacko and, go to like the super high end machining stuff. He's the watchmaker in Australia.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I think he's Josh. I think Nick is his dad who's the watchmaker, which means he repairs and assembles watches. Whereas Josh Hacko is the machinist who's machining the watches, I think.
Gotcha.
But he's doing like super, super, super high end like space stuff. And I could go that way to make more money, mm-hmm. or I could stay at kind of my mid-tier stuff and, invest in machines, invest in automation, invest in people.
We're the direction we're going is the moderately complex that most shops won't do and high volume production. It's kind of the 2 areas that are kind of converging that we can come up with the processes that most shops don't want to deal with, and then we can capitalize on that over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So that's the strengths. And then I want to continue to go in that direction because I could get smaller machines. Like if I get, let's just say I get the magwells, and let's just say I get, 3 more versions of the magwells, I can start getting, like we got the UMC to dedicate to that, but it's also a general purpose machine. Like I could get a much smaller 5-axis machine, or maybe go away from 5-axis and see if I can make it work on a 4-axis machine or a 3-axis machine and do larger fixtures. Like there's other avenues that I could go into.
A horizontal.
Horizontal to try to increase that production. And that's kind of what I'm, if I can keep getting that type of work, I can look at those other machines, other processes, other ways to get that high volume flow and stay in this shop for a little bit longer.
A ring full of 440s and a robot in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe not that.
No, that's the best idea.
I think one Speedio would be faster than that still.
Just add more 440s. I had a thought. I lost my thought. I almost made a bad decision. I still kind of want to make a bad decision.
What bad decision is that?
There is a Aroa pallet loader at HGR for $250.
What?
Yeah.
Is it in good condition? Like, what's...
Who knows?
For $250, I'd be willing to give that a shot.
I know. It's a whole lot cheaper than even a Tormach robot.
Yeah.
I would just assume that I would have to rip out all of the electronics.
Yeah.
But honestly, even just grabbing it and tearing out like the useful like kinematic components
Yeah.
to, you know, kind of DIY something, Frankenstein something together.
I'm getting to the point where I don't want to DIY
I know.
very much.
I know I shouldn't DIY stuff. It doesn't mean I don't want to grab a robot and tear it apart.
Oh man, I want to do that. So I want to DIY all the solutions.
Yeah.
I barely have enough time to do what I'm doing is the problem. And that's the other, like, if I could get employees into here, like I want to get to a point where one, I have enough cash flow that I don't have to worry about, you know, where my next meal's coming from.
Yeah.
And I have enough employees that can keep everything running where then I can do the fun stuff of working on the business or, you know, hey, I want to buy a machine that doesn't really make sense for the business, but I can learn on it or I can play on it or I can try to, you know, restore it or something and have the time to do that. Like I have other interests and hobbies that I'd like to do that if I had the time and money would be fun to do. Like I'd like to restore, I have a 93 Fox Body Mustang that I drove all throughout college. I really want to restore that at some point.
That'd be fun.
So it's sitting in my dad's garage covered in dust. But I want to get it out and fix it up at some point. And I've got a couple other projects that I'd like to do. Time and money.
Yep. I buried a lead earlier about the disaster as I was leaving the training.
Buried a lead?
Buried the lead.
Oh.
It means I left a cliffhanger and then we never circled around back.
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to do that.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So we were, you know, proving out their processes. We were making things out of different materials. Right as I was leaving, we switched chucks. Mm-hmm. And I put the 4-jaw chuck back on. We'd used the 4-jaw chuck a couple times. We had tried some smaller parts out of some square materials, which is why they had a 4-jaw. They really need a self-centering 4-jaw, not an independent 4-jaw, but that's a different thing. I put a pretty large piece of stainless in there and ran the program. Sounded good. It was cutting nicely. Sounded good. Clunk, 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 clunk.
Oh, no.
And he stopped. The chuck was falling off.
Oh.
And I had kind of noticed that it was a little bit weird when I was putting it on there. It didn't really feel like the cams were engaging, like the little, you know, ones that hold it on. I don't remember the term for that type of chuck.
The quick change, was it like inheritance machine or whatever? He made one for his machine.
Yes.
Like that style.
Yeah, it's held on with like 4 or 3 like cams that kind of clamp onto a stud.
Yeah.
They're the kind that are common on a manual machine.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a
Manual
term for
machine.
that. Is that like a D7 or I don't remember.
I don't know that world.
And I was like, that's not good. And I tried it. I put the chuck back. Well, I took the chuck off. I cleaned everything out really well. I reseated all of those little cams and put it back on. And I just like grabbed the material and shook it, and the chuck worked its way loose.
Oh.
So, and while this was happening, we have family down in Houston where we were. This was our last day of training. This was like as I was walking out the door, my uncle was there to pick me up so we could go out to eat with the family. And I had to be like, I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, I've got to go. Which is not the best note to leave it on. They were very happy. The training went very well. The technicians I was working with, they were not machinists, but they were very smart.
Was that something that like was in your contract, or was that something that just kind of came up and was like, hey, can you look at this while you're here?
The goal was to basically turnkey a process and train people for the process. Everything else went very well. Like they know exactly how to run all the other parts. There was no problems at all. That's not true. We should talk about the tailstock. But that was the difference. Things are just occurring to me now. The first time we ran the 4-jaw chuck, we had the tailstock in, and the tailstock was putting force, keeping it seated. I wondered why it failed just on that last part, and I thought it might be because we had shifted from mild steel to stainless, but no, it's because we didn't have the tailstock on.
Solving problems, and I don't
Yeah.
even know what's going on.
So originally we were trying to make these parts. We were using the tailstock. The tailstock on that 15L takes, it's like 2.5 or 3 inches of travel. And with the tailstock on there, if I hung the tailstock a 1/2 inch off the end of the ways, there was, in order to make this part between the jaws and the end of the part, it was something like 30 thou of clearance. Like your part had to stick out exactly right. And if you were 15 thou in either direction, you would either hit an over travel or you'd hit your chuck. And that was obvious. Like it was just a nightmare. Like theoretically, the lathe had the travels, particularly if you were working like the collet chuck, it was fine. But tailstock plus the chuck on the length of these parts, it just was not working. So I ended up taking off the tailstock, and the parts are a little bit long, but ended up like making it in chunks. So I turned like the far half, the unsupported half first, and then so it would like, you know, rough finish that chamfer, you know, everything on the like the right 50% of the part, and then it would do the left 50% of the part that was supported by the chuck.
Gotcha.
So even though the part was, you know, past the 3-to-1 rule, it like finishes were fine. The part was coming out great, no reliability issues. Even out of square materials, it was working really well until we put that 4-jaw chuck back on. But it was because we removed the tailstock that it had room to fall off.
So this is a CNC lathe.
It's the Tormach 15L.
Okay, and it had the manual, the chuck that you'd find on manual machines.
Exactly.
That's weird. Does it come
not
like that from the factory?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I believe the 15L started its life as a like way back when, like Tormach, like the Tormach buyer found a factory that was making manual lathes overseas, and they modified that design into what became the 15L, and it still shares some of that heritage with the. I mean, it's still an import, but with those original import machines. So it had like the manual chuck. It actually still has, I believe, a big lead. It might be a ball screw or a lead screw in the back, like a normal lathe would have for threading, and it's just the stepper on there. But the conclusion I came to, I did call Tormach and asked him, and the guy I was talking to was like, "Send me a video." I don't know. So hopefully I just did something wrong. I don't know what it would have been.
Yeah.
But I think the chuck was defective.
So whenever you go to lock those, I've never used one of those. Is there like a clicking motion to tell you that it's locked all the way in, or is it you just go until it's tight?
You should feel it kind of tighten up.
Like cam over or something.
You should feel it, yeah. Like kind of cam and like, kind of like where you're like when you have a cam and it never bottoms out. Like it never like gets past the center point, but it gets tighter and tighter and tighter until it's kind of wedged in place.
Gotcha.
Like those, like if you were to tighten one of those hexagon Mighty Bites.
It doesn't go over center though?
It doesn't go over center.
Okay.
And I think there was either something wrong with the tolerance on the studs, or maybe the taper that matches the lathe was a little bit out, but it was definitely not, it was seating. Not locking, yeah. It was not seating. So I don't know. This is like, I'll have to do a little bit more, probably talking to Tormach after the weekend and figure out.
Was it a Tormach chuck or was it a?
Yes.
So it was all Tormach all the way through.
Yeah, and the studs did look a little bit different than the one on their 3-jaw. So I'm kind of wondering if it was just something weird with
if the studs had backed out and it was trying to, if it's the cam it's not supposed to go all the way over, and those studs were sticking out at a further distance, that means that it wouldn't be seating all the way against the face.
I checked how far the studs were. Let me phrase that. I checked that the studs were seated.
Okay.
And they have a little locking screw, so I don't think they moved. But if one or all of the studs were a little bit long or short, like that cam may have not caught right, or potentially, and this is kind of more what it felt like, there is a taper on the spindle nose and there is a taper on the chuck, and I believe those two are supposed to lock and mate.
That's what gives you.
And I don't remember feeling that lock or mate at all. Okay. So I think that was the issue. But I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Troubleshooting from afar.
Yeah, troubleshooting from afar.
And AJ's memory.
I did, I wrote out a bunch of procedures for him. I have a little bit more work to do on that. And I sent that off to Jacob. I've been borrowing him. He's also doing some work for me now. And he did a fantastic job of putting those procedures together.
Oh, good.
I originally thought, like, they look so good. I originally thought that he, like, basically just found some of the things that I had written up, like, in the Tormach manual and just copied the pages from the Tormach manual. But nope, he did it all. It looks like something you would see in an actual machine. Actually, it looks better because machine companies are terrible at graphic design. But
Interesting.
so I'll get those finished up. I have a couple more procedures to write out and send to him. And then I'll get them printed and laminated and put in a binder and sent to them. And that'll be like their, this is how you run the machine.
Good job.
But I bet they're doing it right now, even without that.
Yeah.
With the 3-jaw chuck.
Yeah.
But
Good deal.
Other than that, all went pretty well. I ate a lot of seafood in Texas. I had a lot of good food in Texas.
Oh, good.
We took a detour and drove through Louisiana on the way there too. And I got some, we stopped at this roadside dinky little hole in the wall restaurant and got some really good food.
Yeah. The greasy spoon places can be very good.
Yeah.
So those little hole in the walls that you find. Yeah, we have a couple places like that around here that are like the traditional Mexican food, and it's just it's good.
I did not get any Mexican or Tex-Mex in Texas.
Oh, you didn't?
That was my one regret. We got some barbecue. I looked for a lot of places for seafood because seafood in Muncie sucks. Frozen tilapia is about the best that we get there. So having stuff that was a bit more fresher was really good, but I did not get a chance to get any Tex-Mex.
Next time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a next time.
I hope so. I'd like to get back. I would love to go back to this company. They were great to work with. They're really nice people.
All Tormach machines?
They paid well. They were not a machine shop.
Oh, okay.
They are so it's a bigger company that they might do the manufacturing offsite somewhere else. But at very least, this location was a distributor for pipes and valves and fittings and stuff like that. This company seems to do everything from bathroom plumbing valves to oil rig stuff. And this was on the oil rig side. And they offered some value added services. So they would do some valve assembly and, weld on flanges to pipes and stuff like that. Well, one of their value added services was lab testing. And so, if a company's buying $2 million in valves, that company can say, hey, can you test the materials that these valves are made out of before we install them on our $1 billion oil rig or whatever? And so the material, so they would send these people a valve, here test lab, here is a 18-inch ball valve, test it. And so this place would take that ball valve and bandsaw it into round stuff or square parts that were somewhat round, and then put it in the lathe and then make the tensile test specimen per ASTM A370, and then
test the
pull it.
Yeah.
And then they would also, they had the I don't know if you did this in school, but where they would section materials and lap it and etch it and look it under the microscope to look at the grain structure. They did different tests on various levels of heat treat and all that testing lab stuff.
Yep.
And they had a really nice optical comparator. I was very jealous of their optical comparator.
We got rid of our optical comparator. We never got it up and running.
You had a big mammoth one, right?
Yeah, it was massive. It was too big but we need a smaller one for we had a couple parts that those parts that you saw earlier. They have some features on there that a side profile view with the optical comparator would do a really good job of figuring out measuring that stuff. But yeah, we'll see. CMM is probably going to be our next purchase.
That makes sense.
We need it if we're going to continue to get the production work we're trying to get. It's going to become required. So,
well, music button.
Sure. You guys added that in post-processing.
Chica does that now.
Yeah, and so I mean, I was you gave me access to Zencaster, and I saw the intro outro, and I started it, and then I wanted to stop it, And so there was a little X button that popped up, and I was like, "Oh, that's how you stop it." And it deleted it. And I was like, "No!" So I was like, "Oh, hopefully he still has it. Hopefully I didn't ruin this."
I still have like 47 different versions of it, and all of the file names are like Taps and Patience 1, Taps and Patience 2. And I don't know which one is our actual song, so I'll have to like listen to the metal version and the polka version and the country version.
So anyways, yeah. Well, AJ, it's been great to have you here in person. And
it's been fun. Thank you for the tour. Coming out on YouTube sometime.
We'll have to do this again. So, I mean, doing it in person is a lot different than doing it over...
Yeah.
You know, there's not those random delays.
Oh, this is the second time. This isn't the first time. We did it at IMTS.
We did it at IMTS with a guest. This is their first.
Yeah.
This is their first time with just the two of us, and not a super cool, awesome setup from the IMTS booth. That was a nice setup.
Yep. Sometimes you're passing through Muncie.
So yeah.
I'm gonna clean up my shop a little bit more before you see it, but I'm a little embarrassed now. My wife got to see how nice your shop was.
Well, we have a lot of shops that come through, and putting on a good presentation gets us a lot of work. So it's paid off in people coming in and us being a small operation, but still looking around and going, this is really nice. Like it leaves a lasting impact that gets us more work and a good reputation. So it's more than just the parts. It's people coming in and going, man, these guys really care, and it shows. So
I cleaned all the horse stuff off my ceiling. I still have a long way to go, though.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you didn't see us in the garage shop, and we brought people to the garage shop, and they were just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's really nice.
You're really crammed in there, aren't you?
Yeah. You guys know anyone else? And so, like,
it's nice that you're just getting started.
Yeah, you know,
looks like a nice machine for aluminum.
It's like, that's cute. You know, I mean, we've probably overcompensated the other way because of all those different interactions we had where people were like, oh. That's cute. But no, it's been good. I mean, we're in here every day, so we try to make it nice for ourselves.
Yeah.
Too. So I mean, it's not just for other people, but it does give us a lot of street cred when people come in and see it.
I wonder if subconsciously my priorities are a little bit different because, like, you know, I'll make parts in the shop and then I'll go eat lunch inside.
Yeah.
And like then I'll
having
go back
that
out to the shop
separation makes it a little bit more professional. Just by nature, because it's separated from the home.
Yeah.
For both of us, so. But
I'm very jealous that you have a bathroom in your shop.
Two.
It's by far you have two bathrooms.
Two bathrooms.
Both of you guys can go to the bathroom at the same time.
We can. We have an office bathroom that we try to keep a little bit nicer than the shop one, just for guests whenever they come in. So we have just a little bit nicer. And we're trying to make it look nice in here, get some photos and some old stuff hung up just to kind of make it look businessy, but also a little homey.
No,
so,
yeah, I think you nailed it.
So, yeah. But anyways, that's all we got. Thanks for hanging out. There's going to be a shop tour with this as well. So go check that out if you want to see what's going on behind the curtain.
With taps and patience, we'll seize the day. Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joy and struggles, all intertwined. Taps and patience, one of a kind.